contemplating about whether to make this video or not. But here's the deal. I haven't washed my hair in like 5 days. I have a million people in my home right now getting ready for an event that I have at my home later today. And like, I'm just chilling, and I really wanted to get this video out because I don't think I've done one of these ever on my YouTube channel. And I know I've done a podcast about this, like, feels like ages ago, which is like a year ago really. But I just wanted to come on and just talk a little bit about like my story. So I kicked up my feet in my office, just letting everybody do their thing. I'm hiding out. You might hear some background noise. I made myself something to drink. I'm gonna spill some tea, so get your favorite drink and like play me in the background while you're driving or taking a walk or whatever, and just maybe get to know me a little bit better. And I'm sure you can relate to some of these things. And I also think that some of the stuff I'm gonna talk about is gonna give you a much better idea of who I am, where I'm coming from, why anybody even cares about why I make these videos, and how this just kind of all came about. So if that's interesting to you, let's hang out, go grab your favorite drink, and it's story time. So I'm gonna take you back and just give you a very short version of the last 13 years of my life as an entrepreneur. And it really all started when I was growing up, because both of my parents were entrepreneurs. We always had businesses. We were always kind of like a business owner family, very entrepreneurial. And I was actually the first one to graduate college with not only 1 degree, but 2 degrees. And it just was something that was ingrained in me to be a business owner, even subconsciously, my entire life. So growing up, I always worked in my parents' businesses. We owned salon and day spas in the Las Vegas area. And we used to see across our 3 locations, we had about 1,000 people a day. And it was just always crazy busy. I started off as a receptionist when I was in high school and moved on to like an office manager and all those things. And I got to work with my family, which is not easy for those of you that do that. But I really got to experience what it's like to be in business, kind of give yourself to your business, sacrifice for your business, all the hustle and bustle type of stuff, seeing the behind the scenes, the front of the scenes, all the different things, right? And I decided that I was gonna go to school for psychology. I had a little bit of a rough upbringing, and I always was like, you know what, one day I'm gonna grow up and I'm hopefully gonna be able to learn how to help people so that they can heal and come through the things that kind of I've maybe gone through. And so it was something of also a self-healing process, I guess, to go to school for psychology. And I did that for my undergrad, but I decided when I graduated that I was going to get my master's and eventually my doctorate's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, which is technically business psychology. And so I was finishing my master's. I ended up getting married. I was working all kinds of different jobs and things too, just to support my own life and make an income and survive and live. But at the time I was working for other companies and other businesses, and I was learning a lot about more corporate America, even though we were fairly corporate in like our family business, but it still was a small business that was owned by, you know, 2 entrepreneurs. So it wasn't really like super corporate, but I was learning a little bit more of the corporate world and different things. And I was able to bring my experience from, you know, just managing businesses and things as far as family businesses go, even though they were huge businesses. And, you know, things were going really well. Ended up getting married, and I actually was offered a position to be a school director. Now, I was 23 years old at the time, and me and my husband were engaged. We were planning our wedding, etc. And I got offered to manage a cosmetology school. And so I got to bring my beauty industry experience with my schooling experience to one position where I was managing over 250 students that were going through cosmetology school, and over 25 teachers and employees and administrative staff, as well as we were seeing clients that would come into the school to get services from students that were learning. Definitely busy. It was the highest paying job I had ever had up until this point. And I think I was making like $65,000 a year. I was 23 years old. I had a lot of responsibility, and it was great. It was fun. I learned so much more. I challenged myself. I was so out of my comfort zone. It was the first time I was really put into a leadership position, And I really felt like I did a good job. It was scary. I was, my knees were shaking half the time. I would have to speak in front of a lot of people. They were looking up to me, and a lot of them were older than me, and they were looking at me probably like, who is this 23-year-old think she is? All of the different things. But I was able to do a lot of good things there, and we started producing and getting more results and increasing revenue and doing all, the great results that businesses want to see. And I ended up relocating from Los Angeles at the time, because I went back to where I'm from, and I was living in Los Angeles for a couple years in West Hollywood, to relocating to Las Vegas, where I had basically grown up, and had a really great time in that school as well, which is funny enough. That's how I also met somebody that still works with me to this day, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But during this time, I got married and all these things were happening, and I ended up getting pregnant. And so I was pregnant with my first child, and some things started to get really funky. Like, I started realizing the deeper and deeper I got into the cosmetology school that I was working for, that some things were just not that kosher. And what I mean by kosher is just, there were some legal things that were a little bit weird. They were doing some weird stuff with financial aid, and I started to get really, really stressed out. I was working 10 hours a day. I was giving it my all, and I started to feel not great about the company I was working for, and there was just some shady stuff going on. And I started bringing more and more to light, because I just didn't feel right. It was wrong. And the more I dove into it and investigated, I realized this was not where I should be working. And it was just a really bad time all of the sudden. And I wasn't feeling great, and I was super stressed out. And I ended up having a miscarriage, which was super sad. And, at the time it felt really devastating. It was scary, thinking about how all these issues when it comes to reproductive system, and just am I going to be able to have kids? All of these things. It was really sad. And I think it was stress induced, but I also know after going through that experience that so many women go through it. It's almost like so common, but you don't know until you kind of go through it and talk to people about it. And luckily, within a couple of months, I was pregnant again with my oldest daughter, so that worked out. But I decided I was actually going to quit. And that was a hard decision for me, because I was making good money. We had bought our first home. My husband and me were trying to figure things out. We were newlyweds, right? Really trying to figure out what are we gonna do? And to lose that income right away back then was scary. And so I ended up just staying home after this position, which I still loved that I had that position. I learned so much. It was a great experience. I met so many people. I started trusting myself. I started gaining the skills and experience to be a leader and possibly an entrepreneur. And I ended up staying home while I was pregnant with my first daughter. And I was helping some other family businesses out in the meantime, part-time. And I decided I was going to start a mommy blog. Blogging back then, this was around 2011, was really popular. People were making money off of blogging. It was a whole thing. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be a new mom, and I'm learning all this tech stuff anyway. I have all this time on my hands. Let's just try this out and see what happens. Well, within about 12 months, I was already making about $3,000 a month. And I was able to be home with my daughter, and I was enjoying it a lot. It started to become a lot of hard work, but it was something that I really enjoyed. I was creating, I was impacting people, I was helping people, I was learning, I was just really interested in what I was doing. And I was still going to school. This is when I was working on my master's degree as well. And so things were good. I was able to have all this time. And me and my husband went into business manufacturing products, and it started to take off. And so my mommy blog was going well. I was making more and more money every month. I was landing brand deals. I was landing sponsorships and ad space and all of these things. He started doing really well. I was helping out with that. And I actually got contacted by a recruiter for State Farm Insurance. And they contacted me and said, hey, we actually came across your mommy blog, and we saw some of the things that you talked about that you've done previously. Have you ever considered or wondered about owning your own business? and possibly working as an insurance agent. As most of you can imagine or have thought to yourselves, just like, that is not what we grew up thinking we were going to be doing. Like, this is not, what? Do what? Sell insurance? Like, no. And you know, back then, even more than today, the vision of an insurance agent was like male, pale, and stale. Like, let's just call it what it is, right? And I'm like, no, that is not me. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. However, we as a family, and you know, me and my husband and then my parents, like, we had been insured by our State Farm agent. So we were insured by State Farm agent. We were insured with State Farm for many, many years, like since I could drive. And I ended up contacting our insurance agent, and I was like, hey, you know, you've seen me grow up, like, you know, my family, I've been given this opportunity, and I would really appreciate it if you could like show me behind the scenes or just tell me, like, is this something I should get into? And she was the sweetest. She showed me the numbers. She had me in her office for hours. We talked a lot about things. And State Farm was like, hey, we have a sign-on bonus. We'll help you with all the training. We are going to give you a book of business. You don't have to purchase it. So you're going to start making revenue right away. You don't have to invest any money, but it would be nice if you had some capital. Just all of these things. You got to get licensed, but it was like almost too good to be true. It was like, you're just going to hand me a business and I'm going to already start making money. Like, what's going on here? So needless to say, it was all real. And I had talked to my husband and I talked to my family because I was still helping them out. And I was like, hey, I'm going to stop doing this. At the time, my daughter was about a year old, I would say. And I was like, you know what do I have to lose? Let's just go for it. And I started to negotiate with them, went through all the interviewing process, got approved to get a location here in Las Vegas with a book of business to start. And as soon as I signed the paperwork, they had a 9-month training program, which I would have to fly out to Tempe, Arizona once a month. I ended up finding out that I was pregnant with my second child. And I remember going to the sales leader at the time that like recruited me and just said, hey, look, like, I just found out I'm pregnant. And I know this is a 9-month training program. Like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And I have a toddler at home. Like, I started getting like mommy guilt. I started freaking out, like, how am I gonna do this? All the things. And they were like, don't worry about it. Like, first of all, from what I understood at the time is they couldn't just tell me, okay, we can't, you know, hire you now or like have you as an independent contractor and give you what we already discussed and agreed upon based on your contract just because you're pregnant. It's an issue with like legal things and they can't like just let you go because of that or not follow through on what they committed on. And so it was really more about me, like, can I do this? And you know, I just continued to decide I was going to go for it. I had been home with my daughter for a really long time. I continued the mommy blog for a while, but once I started the agency, it got really hard to do both. And so, yeah, 9 months went by, did the training, did the things, and I had my son about 2 weeks before we opened our doors. So we opened our doors to our insurance agency. I had no idea what I was doing. The training for 9 months did not help me at all know what I was doing or what I was getting into or how to manage all the things that I was going to be doing. And like I mentioned before, funny enough, my right-hand person, my business manager, my just person that has helped me grow my insurance business from the ground up, totally like my partner, all the things, was a student at the cosmetology school. And another funny thing is that cosmetology school actually ended up getting shut down. So I ended up bringing light to some of the things that they were doing, and it all went downhill after that. And I'm so glad that I was out of there and I was on to big and better things. So started my agency. I had a 3-week-old in a baby carrier, in the stroller that I was rocking, answering the phones, barely knew what I was doing. It was a shit show. We were drinking from a fire hose. Everybody was just like trying to figure out what we were doing. And we just hit the ground running. We were selling business, we were working, we were there. I was there morning till night. My husband was helping out with my daughter. We ended up putting her in daycare. I mean, we just like figured it out. My son was with me every single day. And my mother-in-law would come in and out as much as she could, my mom, and like just help out. But like, it was really, really hard. I just remember the days just turned into weeks that just turned into months. And I just did the best I could. And eventually we started learning what we needed to do and getting better and refining processes. And my team was getting stronger and we started to be more consistent. And we just like did really well. I think I kept focusing on how do we keep doing this better? How do we keep staying more efficient? How do we keep focusing on what is making us money? How do we keep State Farm happy, but also like do what's right for us, right? And so that's kind of where that went. And we started dabbling into the commercial space because I've been a longtime member of the Las Vegas community. My family have been business owners, like I mentioned, for years. And I was getting a lot of referrals for business insurance and commercial insurance. A lot of the people we knew were business owners. And so we did the best we could with the products that State Farm offered to us to, insure people and get them properly protected. But they were very limited on the products that they had to offer. And we were referring so much business out. And eventually, we started realizing that we were referring more business out than we were writing business. And that got me thinking, maybe we should rethink this whole State Farm situation if we're going to be primarily commercial. We had been number one in the West Coast division for 2+ years. And, we just started realizing like this is more what we want to do than necessarily selling all product lines and just following kind of the captive franchise State Farm carrot and doing what they wanted us to do in order for us to make really good money. And so we decided as a family that my husband was going to get licensed and open an independent agency. And we let State Farm know, like they were totally cool with that. We had known couples that had both had insurance agencies, one captive, one independent. And so there was no issue with like us doing that. We let them know. So he started the independent agency, and one of the employees that was not doing really well in State Farm because we had to sell a lot of financial services was really great at property and casualty. It was really great with commercial, ended up moving over. And within 3 months, he sold more by himself than we did as a team of 5 at State Farm. And so the light bulb started to go off. Within, I would say, about 6 months of opening the independent agency, I was ready to give State Farm notice that I was going to be leaving State Farm. I knew that if I took my team, myself, all of our expertise, all of our knowledge, and we went full force into the independent world, we were going to be making so much more money. And so we let them know we were going to be leaving. And for those of you that don't know, with State Farm, you cannot sell your book of business. We had built our book to about a $5 million book at that point within 5.5 years. And we were already at $1 million within a few months in independent. And so what I did was I serviced my clients that I had at the time all the way up until the end, but I was spending 90% of my time with the team I was going to take over to the independent space. And we just like revamped the whole business plan. We went to the drawing board. We started thinking about how do we niche down? How do we only target our ideal client avatar, which is commercial? How do we do this and sell 3-4 times more than we've ever sold per month? My team definitely thought I was on drugs. And they were very scared, but at the same time, they trusted me and they were ready for something different. They were also very excited. And we ended up leaving October 2017, shut the doors to State Farm, and moved over to the independent space. Now, in this time, me and my husband were killing it as well in our other business where we were manufacturing. We got that business to over $5 million in revenue every year. And that was going really well. The kids were thriving, all the things. They were finally back in school and in daycares, or, in kindergarten or in elementary, and things were just jiving. I was able to get really, really focused. Well, the universe has a funny way of, has a funny sense of humor, a funny way of laughing at us in our face when we make plans, right? I found out I was pregnant again, and I had been shutting State Farm down, pregnant with my third, had 2 kids, about 5 and 3 at the time, and I was now starting a new business. It was crazy. Well, with all of this, we also decided we were going to invest and purchase our first commercial space. And so we got into commercial real estate, and that was another business we started. We since then have bought a few commercial real estate properties. But the first one was, hey, I'm going to be using this space anyway. We were paying rent. Our lease was up. We were moving from State Farm to independent. We were like, let's just buy a space so that at least it's an investment. And so we started getting into commercial real estate, and the property we purchased was big enough for us to lease out the rest of the space that we weren't going to be using in order to cover the mortgage of the commercial loan, VA loan that we got for our commercial building for the first one. And so that's kind of how that all started. And we were also doing construction. I will try to find pictures. If I find them, I will post them here in this video of like how we were doing. I'm literally in the beginning trimester of pregnancy, and we are like doing some DIY stuff. We were trying to keep costs down, and we were just refreshing and remodeling this space that we got. And so lots of things were happening. And it's funny because nowadays I tell my husband, like, if our life isn't somewhat chaotic, we don't know what to do with ourselves. And sure enough, like, we always find something to do. And so, yeah, we've been in the independent space ever since. In 2020, we decided that we were going to open another business. We started as a family, just really enjoying being outdoors. For my husband's birthday, I think his like 38th birthday, I got him a surprise. I bought a razor and an ATV, and we started being more outdoors. We started going off-roading a lot. And in 2020, we were renting campers. We were renting RVs to go on camping trips with our kids and family out to the desert, off-roading, or places around Nevada that we could go and just have like family time. Our kids were really into it. I never thought I would like camping, but I definitely do like glamping. And we just kept renting these RVs to go on trips. And eventually we're like, let's just invest in one. Well, little did we know the world was going to be going to shit for a while. And we started hearing about people that would buy RVs and rent them out. And because people could not travel, they were doing a lot more things locally. They were doing a lot more things outdoors. We were starting a business of not only being more outdoors and enjoying doing that as a family, but renting out RVs, and started an RV rental company as well. So that is another company and business that we have. And so that was really fun, and it's been pretty lucrative. It is not the most lucrative business that we have, but it definitely pays for all our trips and then quite a bit of money. And so we've been doing that for, the last like 3 years as well, and just growing with that. At this point, we have the manufacturing business, we have commercial real estate, we have our insurance agency, and we have an RV rental business. And then as I was getting more and more freed up with my time, because the insurance agency just became more on autopilot, I worked really hard to make sure, you've been around for a while, I talk about this all the time, just getting my business to a point where it was running without me. And I was no longer the face of the business. I was no longer the person people were calling to talk to. I was able to really be the visionary and do more of the strategic planning and implementing, and my team would take all the action. And so at this point, I was probably working about, I don't know, maybe like 1 day a week in the agency in 2020. And as things kind of shut down for a little while, we started realizing we can do a lot more things remote. Our clients were getting really comfortable at doing things remote, and I just had so much time on my hands. I was at home, and I really wanted to go back to the things that were important to me, the things that I enjoyed, that I was passionate about. And this entire time in the insurance industry, and honestly in business in general as a woman, I realized there was not a lot of women, not a lot of people who looked like me, who were showing up online, who were trying to help people that were trying to do what they're doing, and I was just a little bit ahead. And I've always had a really good knack and skill and just like natural ability to be strategic, to create processes and systems, to think in that type of way, to problem solve, to find solutions, to build things, to lead, to build a team, like that type of stuff. I started thinking really hard about like, how do I go back to maybe my blogging days? How do I go back to showing up for others and providing knowledge and insight that where I could take 10 years of everything that I had done and really provide value for others. And then at that point I had, the proof. I had been working a lot less. I had created that time and financial freedom for myself with a diversified income where I was able to say, hey, like I've been able to do this and I can also teach you how to do this. And so that is how Unburden Your Business came about. It started off as a podcast, which I don't upload onto the podcast anymore. I ended up going more to video and I just feel like more natural in video and I love sharing a bunch of things. And so it was just easier to do visually. And I knew that eventually I wanted to kind of turn this podcast into an online program. And so that online program ended up evolving to our signature program now called Agency by Design, where we help female and some male, but mostly female insurance agency owners learn all the things they need to know to master the insurance industry and agency ownership. And so we've had over 72 students in the last 18 months come through the program and have done amazing things. And it's just been such a joy. Like, I love doing this stuff. I love building an amazing community. We've had retreats, we've had conferences, I've spoken on stages. Like, it really took shape on its own. And it's just been one of the funnest, most fulfilling things that I've done in the last 13 years as an entrepreneur. And so that is now our fifth business. And in 2022, we decided we were going to expand our manufacturing business and we got into the aluminum space. And so that has also been my focus for the last year. And so, we've been busy. This has been just a short snapshot of like that entrepreneurial journey. One of the things that I wanted to also touch on for those of you that are in the insurance space or not in the insurance space, doesn't matter. But because I started off in the insurance space, we were able to build residual income. And that is the most amazing, beautiful type of income that you can generate for yourself, because it is like getting that consistent salaried paycheck every month that doesn't have a limit to how much you can make. And it's super solid and really, really stable. And especially during COVID, that was scary. We had some things happening in other businesses that we couldn't control. And it was so wonderful feeling like, hey, we've got diversified income, but more importantly, the insurance space was solid. And, those checks just kept coming in. That revenue was always being generated. And the insurance industry, my insurance agency, was the thing that allowed me to move on, to invest in other businesses, to continue increasing the income we were making and the impact we were making and the revenue we were building and the time and financial freedom that we were creating. And so, I'm forever grateful for the opportunity that I was given by that State Farm recruiter just to get into this industry. And it was the first thing that really got us onto the trajectory of kind of like building this mini empire that we have, or, the wealth that we've had and the success that we've had. And that does not mean that there are not bumps in the road. That does not mean that we still don't work hard. It doesn't mean that, there's no challenges or risk or issues that we come across, but it's been a wild ride. And I'm just really grateful that, I'm relentless. I have a wonderful team that supports me and I support them. I love what I do. I love that I get to do what I love to do, even if not every business is my passion. And I just, it's been crazy. I sit here and think about what it was like 10 years ago when I quit my job where I was making really good money at that age. And I don't know. I mean, it was a little more than 10 years ago now. You know how it is. COVID screwed up everybody's sense of time. But I just kind of wanted to come on and share, this is where I'm at now, and these are the things that I'm doing, and just kind of what that story looks like. And, you can literally do anything you set your mind to, as long as you're willing to work hard You're willing to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. You're willing to take on some risk, but do it with intention and some logic. And just like, you know, I don't want to say hustle your heart out, but like, don't give up on yourself and just keep moving forward. And you can literally achieve anything. I have really big dreams and really high hopes for a lot of the things that we're doing. And, you know, I hope that you'll stick with me through this. I hope that this was a little bit enlightening on who I am and like what I've been through and how this all came about. And that this inspired you a little bit, but also showed you like, I am a human. Like I said, I haven't washed my hair in like 5 days. I have a bunch of people coming over later for an event that I'm probably not ready for, but I'll make it happen, right? And it's just busy time in life. 3 kids, going through the things, marriage, and just trying to do my best, just trying to show up, just be authentically me. It's funny, I've met a lot of people that have followed me through the journey of just kind of like being online for the last couple years, and they're just like, oh my gosh, you are exactly who I feel like you are on video or on audio, or, you know, I've seen you online and like, I thought you might be different in person. I'm like, no, this is me. Like, I'm in my sweats, just like sitting in my house right now, just kind of have a candle lit, drinking some tea and like waiting for people to get done what they got to get done in our house so that I can continue doing what I have to do today. I mean, just this week I spent 3 days in Los Angeles at a convention and trade show for our aluminum business. On Monday, I had a huge meeting about technology and processes and systems in our other business. I actually, while I was in Los Angeles, ended up losing my virtual assistant for our insurance agency. And within 2 hours, I was able to hire somebody else, not even being, you know, in the business at that moment. We also went remote in the last 2 months. I made an entire video about that and what my office kind of looks like and just all of that stuff. So, I mean, things are always moving and grooving here, and you just gotta roll with the punches and do your best. And like, it's just the way it is. So I am just like you. I am just trying to figure it out every single day. But I've definitely learned a lot, and I have a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge and a lot of tactical tools that I think I'm pretty good at teaching and simplifying for people so that they can learn and they can take a lot of what I did well and what I did not so well and just condense the last 10, 13 years of entrepreneurship into a few months where they can be a decade ahead where it took me a decade to figure it out. So that's what I love to do. That's why I keep showing up, and I just wanted to share my story. So let me know in the comments. I want to get to know you, right? I want to know who's watching and how you guys are doing and like what you relate to, and do you have kids? Are you married? Where are you located? What type of business are you in? Tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey, because none of ours looks exactly the same, but I'm sure some of the stuff you could relate to, and I just really love to hear from you. So as always, I hope you subscribe and stick around so I can continue sharing this journey with you, and so that you can gain all that value and all the things that we show up to provide for you. So let me know how you're doing in the comments, and I'll see you again soon.